Welcome to White Bear Lake High School for Tuesday Night Lacrosse on SCC Sports. It's my first appearance of the spring season, and it's our first chance to check out the White Bear Lake and Woodbury boys lacrosse teams, both in the middle of the pack in the Suburban East. Woodbury, a young squad trying to build their way forward, and White Bear Lake hoping to pick up a victory and move to 4-2 on the season. Of course, everyone chasing Stillwater in the conference and the section. I'm Mike Beat, and here I am all by myself talking to myself. That's Chaos Theory. The starters were introduced beforehand. Now the starters will meet at center field to do the customary coin flip and all of the other pre-game pleasantries. Players to watch, White Bear Lake has a few. Their leading scorer and leading point earner, Wyatt Raleigh, 17 goals, 10 assists. He is the centerpiece of White Bear Lake's attack, averaging over 3 goals a game and over 5 points per game. Keep an eye out on his ground ball. Woodbury, Sam Sanchez, 27 points, 14 goals, 13 assists, but he doesn't have as much support, at least in the early part of the season. White Bear Lake winning the faceoff. They had a little bit of trouble picking up the ball, and as a result, it's going to go to Woodbury's goalie, Drew Baker. On the season, Baker's save percentage of .692, giving up just under 5 goals a game. Reed Vikstrom, he will be the goalie for White Bear Lake. He's had a little more trouble between the pipes, save percentage .475, but as I've said in lacrosse over the years, you're going to give up a few goals. It's about getting those key stops, and a running start leads to a fantastic finish for White Bear Lake's Wyatt Raleigh. Raleigh gives the Bears an early lead, just 44 seconds into the period. And that makes it goal number 18 on the year. White Bear Lake finished 10-5 last year, Woodbury 6-9. But as I said, Stillwater has been the team to beat for quite a while in the conference and the section. Ponies undefeated and looking quite spry. White Bear Lake played them on Friday, lost 8-6 in a game that was rescheduled. We were going to have the girls' game, but stormy weather had other ideas. It could be a stepping stone, though, for the Bears as they win the face-off, because the last time they played a ranked team, Eastridge, they fell 17-10. So they played Stillwater close. We'll see if that translates to a potential surprise later on in section play. You only play your conference rivals once in lacrosse. It's a short season. And we'll be at the midway point by this time next week. Some are already there. Bears with the ball. Again, no shot clock in high school lacrosse, so you can take as much time as you want on these possessions, as we'll try to get names and numbers as we make our way through. And as I said before in previous broadcasts, as that shot from Liam Malloy was deflected, scooped up by Gavin Hewitt. He is going to Elmhurst. Elmhurst passes back out over to Colton Butts. Butts fires, save. Drew Baker. Baker, the sophomore. Woodbury, when I talked to Jason Wara, their head coach, he said it's a young group, just learning how to play the game. The outlet pass intercepted. Now White Bear Lake has a chance in transition, and they finish going top shelf where they keep the Thin Mints. Gavin Hewitt makes it 2-0. Didn't quite pick up who fed him the ball. You'll see it on the replay. But that is the danger of sloppy outlet passes, not unlike hockey. Another face-off win for the Bears, and this is where you can set the tone. If you can get those face-off wins, you can string multiple possessions, and that can lead to lengthy rallies. This will be a test for Will McDonald, who again, coming in, just giving up around 5 goals a game. So you might be wondering, well, how is Woodbury at 3-3? They lost a couple of defensive duels, 9-6 to Cretin-Durham Hall and 5-4 to Mounds View last week. Spinning through the coverage and lacing in the goal is Colton Butts, the junior. So 3 different White Bear Lake players have put up goals in this first quarter. Another factor, Woodbury had a couple of big wins, 16-2 over Park of Cottage Grove, 11-1 over Forest Lake, so that skewed the averages a bit. Woodbury started the season right here, actually, playing St. Michael Abbeville, part of the Lacrosse Day in Minnesota. White Bear Lake has hosted that event for some time, and the Bears are just dominating this first quarter. I think they've won every face-off, and this is what I'm talking about. Because there's no shot clock, face-off wins can lead to a string of consecutive possessions compared to sports like football, basketball, where you have to trade off. You keep winning face-offs, you can set the tempo and not worry about a single thing as White Bear Lake goes counterclockwise around the horn. Aaron pass, of course. We'll talk about this. Ooh, a slip. And now a penalty coming up on Woodbury. The penalties mirror hockey more closely in boys lacrosse compared to girls lacrosse, so White Bear Lake will get a man-up situation shortly. That's equivalent to a power play. And speaking of, Wild and Stars going at it in game 5 of their series. Winner will be 1 away from reaching the second round. And now we'll get the penalty ruling. One minute for holding on Kayla Rudine. So it will be 6-on-5. Again, no more than 6 to a side in boys lacrosse. White Bear Lake exhibiting a lot of patience as they work around. Shot, top shelf. That was the lacrosse equivalent of a slap shot. And rifling that one in the net was Wyatt Raleigh. For nothing, White Bear Lake. They score the man-up goal, and we still have 6 minutes and 58 seconds left in the first. And we have a face-off win that turns into a quick strike score for the Bears and Eli Lalonde. Five to nothing. And that's enough for Woodbury to take a timeout.
Woodbury Lake Boys Lacrosse team would like to thank their VIP Platinum sponsors. Fuel your game with Carboni.
We mentioned White Bear Lake has a few faces in their roster. It's not just Raleigh, although he is the leader in goals and assists. That makes him the leader in points. Among other returning athletes from a year ago, Gavin Hewitt and Liam Malloy, both are among the leaders this year for the Bears in goals. And as you can see, Hewitt, Raleigh, and Malloy were part of the big three a year ago. So that consistency, no doubt helping the Bears in this first quarter so far. And I know everyone, well, if this isn't the days where you had to flip channels, you can do multi-screens, but I know everyone is wondering, what about that other game taking place tonight? Wild Stars just underway. Another face-off win for the Bears. Again, they have won every single face-off in this first quarter, at least to my recollection. They are putting on a clinic. It was Woodbury who won this meeting a year ago, 14-10, but as the saying goes, that was last year. This is this year. Here's Raleigh. Had the ball knocked away. The ball will roll out of bounds, and Woodbury forcing a turnover. Much to their relief. Let's see what they can do with it. Last time they were able to get a stop, you may recall they had that sloppy outlet pass that turned into a White Bear Lake goal. So ball control is going to be imperative after giving up 5 goals to start the game. Royals get through. That's Sam Sanchez trying to wrap around, covered up well by Tanner Olson. There are some hockey crossovers. Olson, one of them. Lacrosse, the most natural sport for the hockey contingent. Woodbury gathering up from deep. Shot goes wide left. Bounces out of bounds. Sanchez closest to the ball, as you know, for a shot on goal. It's whoever is closest to the ball when it goes out of bounds. Sanchez, hounded and surrounded, tries to break free. Stick check, ball loose. And it bounces its way into the White Bear Lake crease. So the Bears get a stop. Now remember, there is a time limit to get the ball across midfield and then into the attack zone. And anybody can do so. It's not like hockey where the goalie has to stay within a defined area. In this sport, anyone can roam the field. Foul called on Woodbury, just a common foul, but it will give White Bear Lake the ball. And they did get it into the attack zone. Once you get into the attack zone, then you can work all the way back to midfield. Once again, White Bear Lake circling the ball around, this time in a clockwise motion. From the point, stick check, ball knocked out, scooped up by the Bears. And Weston Raleigh goes to Carter Eastburn. And the Bears will start another circular motion. This is not uncommon on sets. Raleigh, delayed, quick stick, deflected, but White Bear Lake closest to the ball. Nobody from Woodbury behind the net. And since that was ruled a shot on goal, White Bear Lake can retain possession. 3.5 to go in the first. Stutter step. This is Malloy. Found nothing there. It was White Bear Lake who called the timeout, I might add, which is a little surprising, since they were the one who got off to that rocketing start. But I'm up here, not down there. Malloy rises, fires out of bounds. White Bear Lake closest to the ball again. You've got Eastburn patrolling behind the net. Lost his stick, and that allowed Woodbury to scoop up the ground ball. They'll reset. That's a lengthy outlet pass, and a little too lengthy. Kayla Rudine, they call that a shot on goal. Stick check by the Bears. Woodbury hangs on to it. This is Graham Tolke. Tolke has an opening just over the net. But Sam Sanchez patrolling, so Woodbury will hang on to the ball. As we have some windy conditions here. It is a little cool for this time of year, but compared to yesterday, we'll take it. In fact, it's going to be dry the rest of the week, so spring sports won't have to worry too much about cancellations or reschedulings. Every spring we seem to run into the weather whiplash. Woodbury backs off. 1:35 left in the first. Sam Sanchez tries to go across. I think the ball was knocked off the post and picked up by Reed Vikstrom, the White Bear Lake goalie, who has not seen a lot of action yet. Bears trot across field. Colton Butts, I think, was trying to time it. Pass was errant. He was trying to spot up Gavin Hewitt with the entry feed. Instead, White Bear Lake turns it over, and we do have our first goal in the other series. If you're not watching on another screen, the Wild get the first goal on the Stars, and Woodbury taking another deep shot. I guess it's one way to avoid White Bear Lake's press. Fire shots from deep, and as long as it approaches the net, it's ruled a shot on goal. 33 seconds left in the first. White Bear Lake up 5-0. Woodbury holding for what I presume will be the last shot of the quarter. Ethan Mose zips it to Sanchez. 13 seconds now. Sanchez has to make a move soon. 10 seconds. White Bear Lake with the body check. Graham Tolke draws a penalty just as time expires. A late flag. And we'll see if it is indeed on White Bear Lake when we return for the second quarter. Bears lead 5-0.
I'm gonna go fix Mike.
I see
The end of the first quarter.
a fearful, anxious 12-year-old girl who turned into a beautiful, optimistic, hardworking, talented, creative young woman who's not afraid to advocate for herself. Yeah, I'm just super proud of you. I don't have no doubt in my mind about the next version of yourself that you're gonna be.
I see a beautiful soul, a hardworking mom, and someone that loves her kids and would do anything for her kids. And I just love you,
I
Sarah.
love it too.
A holding penalty was issued, so a 30-second man up will greet us at the start of the second quarter. But the first quarter was all White Bear Lake. They won just about every faceoff, and outside of a couple of turnovers, they were on point with their passing, their ball movement. 5 different players, I should say 4 players, scored in the period for White Bear Lake. A pair of goals from Wyatt Raleigh, with Hewitt, Butts, and Lalonde all chipping in. The penalty was indeed on White Bear Lake. Dylan Long called for the 30-second hold. So Woodbury will get a 30-second man up to begin the second quarter. Live on SCC High School Boys Lacrosse. So let's see if Woodbury can get on the board. They haven't had too many opportunities to possess the ball in the attack zone. That shot goes wide left. Woodbury closest to the ball. Liam Malloy did get credit for 2 assists in the first quarter. For those who are curious, because assists do count in the point tally. Shot save by Vikstrom. Sully Bourne had an open look and sent a laser his way. White Bear Lake can't get the outlet pass over cleanly, but they do recover it after a stick check. And the Bears take their second timeout to get out of a pressure situation. Each team gets 2 per half. White Bear Lake back at full strength. Meanwhile, down in Dallas, the Stars get one back, so the Wild and Stars even at 1. Again, it's game 5. Whoever wins will be 1 away from the second round in that series. We've got a ways to go before we worry about playoffs here and in lacrosse. As it is with just about every sport, it's single elimination. But White Bear Lake has seen a lot of sports. As we said in last year's meeting, that was last year, this is this year. Well, here's a reason for it. We mentioned Woodbury starting this season with a younger squad trying to learn the ropes. You look at what they lost a year ago. Max Henry, 72 points on the season. Quinn Olson, a 40-goal scorer. And Carter Nelson, he was a reliable contributor. So that is one of many reasons why they say graduation is the great equalizer in high school sports, because you can have a great contingent, a great foundation, and then they get their degrees, their diplomas, I should say. Degrees come in college. Move on, and now you have to reconfigure with the next group in line. That's how it goes in high school sports. Malloy goes back up to Wyatt Raleigh. White Bear Lake out of timeouts for the remainder of the half. And if you're wondering about their usage of timeouts, they are up. 5-1 is the score. Now Woodbury with the ball. Vikstrom didn't get back in time, so Sanchez hooks up with Zenon Greenbaum. Woodbury on the board. the freshman from the senior. So Woodbury pouncing on a transition play, and that was their first goal. So the scoreboard had a goal listed a little prematurely, but it turned out to be a foreboding for the Royals. And that's the thing about this sport. You have a lot of time, especially in boys lacrosse, where you have stoppage time rules. And why do I say that? Well, I happen to be on hand for an overtime finish on Saturday between Hill Murray and Farmington and girls lacrosse, where both teams traded leads. So if you're going to go down early, the first quarter is the best place to do it as White Bear Lake throws it away, because you do have time to work your way back. White Bear Lake still holding the edge in face-offs. But ball control starting to falter. And now Woodbury will use their first of 2 timeouts this half. 8:51 left in the second. 5-1. White Bear Lake over Woodbury. Again, these two in the middle of the pack in the Suburban East. Stillwater and East Ridge look like they are headed for a collision course that would decide the conference title. And we'll show you the standings to highlight what I'm talking about. Stillwater and East Ridge, it looks like when those two meet, it will decide not only who wins the conference, but who also gets the 1 seed in Section 4. We'll talk more about section alignments a little later, but each team in one class, both boys and girls lacrosse in a one-class sport, so that does favor the larger schools. And Stillwater and East Ridge both in the top 5 in the state. So it will be a tall hill to climb. For the rest of the field in the Suburban East. As we resume play. Woodbury trying to chip away at what was a 5-goal deficit. Graham Tolke bobbled, recovered, and then put a shot on net that was saved by Vikstrom. Reed going deep again on those outlets. We've seen both sides go deep, and it's not working out, at least as of late, for White Bear Lake. They turn it over again. There is a battle for the ball. And that's the risk you run with those lengthy outlets. If they're not on point, it turns into a pile-up, a scrum. White Bear Lake will get the ball after it rolled out of bounds. So a moment to exhale for the Bears, but something to monitor as the game moves along. A little stutter step from Weston Raleigh. His shot batted away by Drew Baker. Stays with the Bears. And I do have to issue one correction. In boys lacrosse, Stillwater and Eastridge are in separate sections. So when those two meet, oh, that would have been a fantastic heads-up play. And then a hit from behind, but a clean body check. White Bear Lake out of bounds. Woodbury forcing the turnover after Colton Butts scooped it up near the out-of-bounds area. But St. Thomas Academy ahead of Eastridge in Section 4, and that's where White Bear Lake is. Stillwater leads, followed by Centennial. They do have QRF scores already. But from the looks of it, White Bear Lake would need a few things to go their way if they wanted to move up. There are 10 teams in the section, so we'll have a couple of play-in rounds. White Bear Lake, as of now, there's still a few weeks to go. They would be seeded 4th, which would mean they would presumably face Stillwater in the semis. There's a bouncer from Sanchez that goes wide left. Woodbury closest to the ball. No goal. Ball, I believe, went outside the net. It was tough to tell from our vantage point. Sam Sanchez trying to sneak attack from behind. I thought it went in, but officials signaled no goal and may have gone outside of the net. Another stop for the Bears. They're able to get it across. They have not scored since the 6:46 mark in the first quarter. That shot ricochets off a Woodbury defender, number 55. Harrison Dardis. 5:15 left in the second. Wyatt Raleigh with a good look. He was looking to go across, and now Woodbury with an errant outlet. Or was it? They've got the timeout straightened out as well. So White Bear Lake had a timeout left. Woodbury used theirs. And now White Bear Lake takes their second and final timeout of the half. They don't carry over, so you get 2 this half and 2 next half, so why not use them? As we said a year ago, Woodbury won this matchup 14-10. If you look at the season series, it has gone back and forth over the last several years, but it has come in waves. So White Bear Lake won 3 in a row. There was no matchup in 2020. The spring season was canceled because of COVID. Woodbury has won the last 3 meetings. White Bear Lake's last victory came in 2022. Of course, as I noted earlier, in lacrosse, each conference has just 1 meeting. And in the case of White Bear Lake and Woodbury, they're in separate sections. Woodbury also in Section 3. So this is the only time the two play each other. You get that from time to time. In hockey and basketball, for example, these two schools often in the same section. In volleyball and lacrosse, it's split up a little differently. But again, in lacrosse, it has to do with the single class formation. And from the left slot area, it's Liam Malloy who bounces in a laser and ends the White Bear Lake scoring drought. .443 left in the second. Malloy notches his first of the game. And part of that deep contingent up front for the Bears. Already 3 with 20 points or more entering this game. And Malloy with 3 points to his name. And this is what White Bear Lake wants to see, but some trouble initially fielding the faceoff. Tanner Olson eventually makes the grab, but he is hounded. Stick check from behind. That will give the ball back to Woodbury. That was Owen Founds on the defensive coverage. Woodbury becoming more adept defensively, but the faceoff still a struggle. Another deep shot. Woodbury closest to the ball as the lights come on here at White Bear Lake. And Woodbury, I haven't seen that strategy executed before, but they seem content to take those shots from deep, even if it's not on target. It's close enough to be ruled a shot on goal, and that is a way to leapfrog the defense. Shot wide left from Graham Tolke. It will stay with the Royals. And then an errant throw hands the ball back to White Bear Lake. That was just an unforced error. Remember, in boys lacrosse, it's a shorter field, so that gray line, which is marked by the pylons around the field, that is the out-of-bounds line when you get to the sideline. It can be tough to see on screen at all times, but it's the gray line. Girls lacrosse and soccer, obviously, it's the orange line. 3 minutes to go in the second. Just 1 goal per side. But from the middle, gets the pass to Nolan Buteau, who stumbles. And ultimately loses the ball. Now, what will Woodbury do? Are they going to fling another deep ball? No, they're going to play this one a little more traditionally. Or at least that was the intent. Instead, Gabrick Greenbaum was pinched out of bounds by Malloy. And now a penalty with 2:17 left in the second. And a second flag. Two flags. One came after Harrison Briggle had a conversation with the official, and it may not have been a pleasant word. So we're going to have offsetting penalties. One assessed to Hewitt, and then Briggle, as you'll see in the replay, was having a chat, having some kind of conversation, and whatever was said, at least that's the vibe I'm getting. A second flag was thrown, so we'll try to sort this all out as the ruling is now coming here. So an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty was assessed, I believe, to Briggle, and then Gavin Hewitt. I couldn't make out what the official was saying entirely, but I think it was a hit to the head. So a pair of 2-minute penalties. And unlike hockey, where coincidental minors are served, but, well, no, but it is coincidental. So because they occurred at the same time, we remain 6-on-6, so it's even strength. But Hewitt and Briggle will have to wait until just before the second quarter ends. I'm counting, no, it is 5-on-5. That's what I thought. It takes a game or two to get those lacrosse rules up to speed again, but 5-on-5, so more open field to work with for these next 2 minutes on offensive plays where White Bear Lake has held the upper hand. .115 to go. First penalty ends. So White Bear Lake returns to full strength, and just as they do, Liam Malloy sends in another one, his second. With 1:09 left in the second quarter. And Briggle still has to serve his penalty. I think there's a question of whether or not it was a non-releasable one initially. So White Bear Lake gets the ball. They have a chance to build their lead. They put up 5 goals in the first, shut out Woodbury. And the offense tapering, at least for the moment. But Malloy spots Lalonde from close range.
Scoring for the Bears is second of the game, number 10, Eli Lalonde.
Lalonde with his second goal and Malloy with his third assist. And that gives Malloy 5 points. He was averaging 4 points per game coming into this contest. Face-off violation, so Woodbury gets the ball. Still shorthanded as a result of the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. But Sanchez not going to back off just because Woodbury is shorthanded. They may try to kill off the final 15 seconds or so of this Briggle penalty and then try to line up one more opportunity before the half.
Down to the crease right now. Let's go. Hustle, hustle.
Woodbury back at full strength, but Sanchez near midfield has to take a running start. Gets through one defender. That shot goes wide left. Woodbury closest to the ball, but they only have 3 seconds, so they'll have to move quickly. And it doesn't look like they'll have time. White Bear Lake owning the first half. Pounding the net frequently in the first, adding 3 more in the second. They lead 8-1. We'll have first half highlights when we come back. This is High School Boys Lacrosse on SCC Sports.
SCC TV is your home for high school sports. And the Zephyrs find the buses to St. Paul once again. Tune in all school year long for live broadcasts of Zephyr, Titan, and Bear sports. Inside the park,
Home run!
SCC Sports can be found on Comcast Channel 19 or 801 HD in our viewing area. And most games will be streamed on our YouTube channel as well. SCC Sports, connecting you to your community.
It's halftime. White Bear Lake leads Woodbury 8-1. Any adjective you could use to describe a beatdown, that would sum up White Bear Lake's performance in the first half. They shut out Woodbury 5-0 in the first quarter, only gave up 1 goal in the second on a transition play. So these highlights are going to skew heavily in White Bear Lake's side, and it began 44 seconds into the game. Wyatt Raleigh scoring, and the Bears just took off from there. They had 4 different players register goals in the first quarter. Liam Malloy added a pair in the second. He is the point leader with 2 goals and 3 assists. Wyatt Raleigh and Eli Lalonde have a pair of goals. Malloy with a pair, as we noted earlier. And they also got some help from Gavin Hewitt and Colton Butts. Woodbury's lone goal came early in the second. Zenon Greenbaum from Sam Sanchez. But White Bear Lake winning the majority of the faceoffs. And outside of some errant passes, they have played a solid, thorough game full of composure. We'll take another look at the Suburban East Conference standings. Again, these 2 schools in separate sections. It's a little different in lacrosse because it's a single-class sport, but these 2 in the middle of the pack. Stillwater and Eastridge also in separate sections. The Woodbury schools in Section 3, Stillwater and White Bear Lake in Section 4. So this is the one and only meeting unless these 2 were to advance to state. But White Bear Lake channeling their contingent of offensive producers to lead big 8-1. We'll have the second half in just a moment. This is high school boys lacrosse on SCC Sports.
I'm trying so hard at practice. I don't want to let anyone down. Between homework, studying, and tests, I can't catch up. No matter what I do, I feel like I'm falling further and further behind. I don't even have time for my friends anymore. I don't think I can handle this. But you know what? I know where to go for help. I found the Your Life, Your Voice app. Every day is an opportunity to get better. Visit yourlifeyourvoice.org today.
Second half about to start at White Bear Lake Area High School, where the Bears are, shall we say, embarking the complete opposite of hibernation. 8-1 over Woodbury. If they can continue their control of face-offs, as we saw especially in the first quarter, they should have no trouble coasting to a victory. Their offensive production, again, tapered off a bit in the second. They went on a lengthy drought. It wasn't until the 7:17 mark where they finally got on the board, but they did put up 3 goals in the closing minutes of the second quarter to lead 8-1. And we haven't seen a runaway win of this magnitude in this series for some time. There was a shutout if you go back to 2015. Most of these young men were half their size, if that. White Bear Lake won that game 11-0, but that was 11 years ago, so I don't know how many folks would remember that, at least among this group, but some of you longtime fans might, because 2015 was the year White Bear Lake won what is their first and currently only state championship in boys lacrosse. And their most recent state championship in any sport, if memory serves. So we're ready to start the second half. By the way, we're at the first intermission, and Woodbury wins this face-off. First intermission of the Wild Stars series. Woodbury. Crease violation. Harrison Bregel was absorbing check after check en route to the net, but got in the crease. White Bear Lake pinches him off. So a rare face-off win for the Royals, and they cannot convert. But an errant pass, we've seen a few of those. We'll hand the ball right back to Woodbury. So to finish the update, Game 5 between the Wild and Stars in the first intermission. They are tied at 1. Again, winner will be one away. There will be a Game 6 in St. Paul later this week. Woodbury, they just have to find a way to get goals on the board. And ideally, they'd like to do it with a pinch of efficiency. Again, no shot clock. So Woodbury's going to need some goals and maybe face-off wins. They go across, shot, score! Tolke to Ethan Mose. And if you can get support, if you can get production outside of Sanchez, that can go a long way. Mose with his 9th goal of the year. Again, Sanchez, the biggest name, but it's White Bear Lake who will get this face-off, and that's going to be a problem Woodbury will have to address if they want to work their way out of this. You need goals and you need face-off wins, as White Bear Lake was able to do in the first quarter, and to a lesser extent in the second. White Bear Lake scoring 3 man-up goals in the first half. Shot save, and corralling it with the stick is Baker. That was Gavin Whippler, I believe, who took the shot from deep up top. Now Woodbury. Again, there's a time limit, so this is what they've done before. Trying to catch White Bear Lake with the empty net. Remember, in lacrosse, players can roam the field as they please, even the goalies. But a key deflection. I was going to say stop Woodbury from scoring. All it did was just set up Sanchez for a running score. He tallies his first goal of the game, and this is what Woodbury needs. The margin back to 5. 9:21 left in the third. You need goals, and you need them in relatively quick succession. You don't have to score 3 or 4 in 40 seconds. But pick up goals in a way that helps out with the math. White Bear Lake with the face-off win. Tried the transition look, didn't like it. They have an opening, and it clanks off the crossbar. Michael Petrzuski collecting the rebound, but a stick check from behind allows Adrian Eicher to track it down. He wants to go all the way and does. Actually, he spotted the ball to Wyatt Raleigh, and Raleigh collects the hat trick. So the stick check, the ground ball by Eicher, And then Raleigh with the finishing blow on that play. 9-3, Bears over Royals. Another face-off win for the Bears. Tanner Olson making the play. Gavin Hewitt had one-on-one with Baker. Drew able to knock it away. It's still White Bear Lake ball because they were closest when it went out of bounds. Butts out to Malloy, back to Butts. Butts from the middle, offline. Bears will hang on to it. Weston Raleigh. Resetting. As nighttime descends on White Bear Lake. Wyatt Raleigh to Liam Malloy. Malloy slips. Woodbury called for a penalty. "30-second pushing penalty on Kayla Rudine. As we've said, White Bear Lake, they've scored 3 goals in the man up. They don't call it a power play, even though that's what effectively it is. "30 seconds of 6-on-5. White Bear Lake looking for an entry pass. No, they go backdoor instead. What a move by Raleigh to spot up Gavin Hewitt. Hewitt with his second. And the Bears back up by 7, 10-3. That was a brilliant piece of work, as you'll see on the replay. And all the big names for White Bear Lake delivering so far. Hewitt with a pair of goals. Wyatt Raleigh with a hat trick. Bears win another face-off. Rebound to Wyatt Raleigh after Hewitt took a look. Here's Weston Raleigh. And White Bear Lake with an errant pass that will end the threat. But I would argue they scored a couple of crucial goals after Woodbury tallied back-to-back scores. And now that puts the onus on Woodbury, especially in a sport that doesn't have a shot clock. Again, at the high school level, there is no shot clock in lacrosse. So Woodbury can't be too careful, but they get the quick stick off. It's Mose to Tolke. Tolke with his first. 4 different Woodbury players have scored. By the way, for the curious, Wyatt Raleigh collecting his 3rd hat trick of the season. It's been a case of rising and falling tides in terms of scoring, as White Bear Lake wins the faceoff and fires another laser up top. It's Colton Butts, his second.
First of the half, second of the game, number 4. Butts.
And White Bear Lake continues with the swift responses. Wyatt Raleigh, for example, as we take a look at that last goal, 3 hat tricks he had, a sock trick, 7 goals in the victory over Maple Grove as the Bears win the faceoff, take off running. Eicher goes to Wyatt Raleigh. Wyatt, in the loss to Stillwater, scored just once. So that tells you how valuable Wyatt is to this White Bear Lake group. And you have to think he will be a centerpiece, not just this year, but next year as well, being a junior. White Bear Lake making a quick change in their attacking set again. No more than 6 to a side, so if you want to sub a player, you have to go all the way back to the midfield line. Probably aren't going to see too many defensive sides do that. Bears, I thought they were lining up. Instead, they'll reset. And again, no time limit on these possessions. So you can circle around the fence, around the clock, and wait for the ideal play. Wyatt Raleigh with the turnaround shot that bounces away. Colton Butts closest to it. Butts tries to go around. It's a foot race. Woodbury's going to win it. Amber Greenbaum with the faster feet. But Woodbury, they need a scoring run of some kind, and when you get to this mark, 11-4, once you get up into the double digits, it becomes a lot harder if you haven't put up big numbers yourself. Three minutes, 11 seconds left in the third. That was a shot on goal, so it stays with the Royals. Briggle finds a hole and lost it. I think he got held up just as he released it, but it is ruled a shot on goal. Sanchez looking for the wraparound, fires off the post. Still Woodbury ball again. That is a shot on goal. It doesn't matter where the ball goes out of bounds. Sanchez to Briggle. Woodbury jammed up. Jason Wara using one of his 2 timeouts this half. To break out of the stalemate. Looking ahead for White Bear Lake, they have played through the toughest part of their schedule. And again, with how short the lacrosse season is, you don't get a lot of non-conference opportunities. They had that 17-13 win over Maple Grove, but after this, they have a couple of road games. The next home game will be a Saturday matinee against Cretin-Durham Hall. And they'll also take on Hudson May 14th. They'll end the regular season at Matamidi right before the Memorial Day weekend, which is typically the checkpoint for spring sports before they head into sections. Under 2 minutes to go in the third. They have the scoreboard listing White Bear Lake using that last timeout, but I don't think you can call one if you don't have possession. Here comes Briggle. Cut off by that wall. White Bear Lake doing a solid job collapsing on the ball handlers. Entry pass deflected. Gabrick Greenbaum, the senior, making some defensive magic. Now he's under duress. Push from behind. That will give the ball to Woodbury. Just a common foul, no penalty. Under a minute to go. Both teams scoring 3, which of course favors White Bear Lake. Now their defense clamps down. The stick check by Mac Wicklund. White Bear Lake with the deep outlet. Comes up a bit short, but the Bears able to field it. And now the Bears will take their first timeout with 22 seconds left in the third. Interesting decision to use one right before the end of a period and right before you were going to set up, but again, every coach has their reason. I think I would understand it a little more if you were trying to save possession. That is one timeout strategy. So with this timeout, let's see what Woodbury has ahead of them. We talked about White Bear Lake completing the toughest leg of their season. Well, Woodbury, they will be entering the toughest leg of their season. They've got to take on East Ridge and Stillwater and St. Thomas Academy, all road games. St. Thomas Academy currently the leaders in Section 3 according to QRF, so they are going to get a lot of tests. And for a young team that is trying to put together, construct a new identity, those will be big barometer games. They will end the regular season hosting Mankato. And if you're wondering, it's just a co-op, one school with Mankato. Here we go, 17 seconds. White Bear Lake will try to line up one more scoring play. Here comes Malloy. Pass offline. And that's an example of how one little slip up can mess up an entire play, but with 7 seconds left, it's not going to be too damaging. Woodbury just has to fling it. That's about all they could do. Maybe hope someone would pick up the long pass. But White Bear Lake holds serve as they lead 11-4 with one more quarter to go. This is high school boys lacrosse on SEC Sports.
Ever get the feeling life is sneaking up on you and you're in over your head? Today, the world seems different, and you find yourself overwhelmed. You're facing new decisions, new expectations, new anxieties you never had to face before. What is going on here? If it feels like life is turning up the pressure, there's a resource that can help you sort things out. YourLifeYourVoice.org isn't just another app. It's a collection of ideas, interactive tools, and expert advice on how to navigate the challenges the world can throw at you. If you're feeling like you're in over your head with life, visit YourLifeYourVoice.org. It's time to come up for fresh air.
Both teams scored 3 in the third, so that means White Bear Lake holds serve. And with 1 quarter to go, a 7-goal lead should be safe enough to reach the finish line. As we look at the third quarter highlights, every goal scored by a different player for both White Bear Lake and Woodbury as we start the fourth. White Bear Lake winning the face-off, both teams with 1 timeout remaining. But White Bear Lake, they don't have to do too much. They just have to avoid silly turnovers or sequences that would allow Woodbury to reel in the margin. But as long as White Bear Lake wins the face-offs, they're pretty much set, because they can eat up a lot of time on these possessions. At least that's what I would do in this situation. Up by 7, you don't have to do anything too crazy. Let the clock become your friend. That doesn't mean White Bear Lake will just lay back and pass the ball around for 12 minutes. But I wouldn't be surprised if they take their time. White Bear Lake on the cusp. Again, they lost to Stillwater 8-6, so that's another resume builder for the Ponies in the Section 4 standings. Weston Raleigh backing up. Again, once you get into the attack zone, you can use every inch of the field up to the midpoint, and that allowed White Bear Lake to reset and set up Gavin Hewitt.
Scored for the Bears.
Gavin, the second White Bear Lake player to notch a hat trick.
Yeah, Hewitt.
So a possession that took 1 minute and 48 seconds ends with a Gavin Hewitt score. Hewitt and Raleigh, Wyatt Raleigh that is, face-off violation, White Bear Lake ball, the leaders. And much like Raleigh, Gavin Hewitt, he's been all over the place. He had 9 goals in a 25-4 win over Roseville. But he records his third hat trick. He scored twice in the loss to Stillwater. His most recent hat trick came in that 14-9 win over Irondale. 9 goals, 25-4. That is a big number. And those numbers can influence the averages. White Bear Lake, while I don't have inside information as to their game plan, they have thrived in the face-offs, and that is why they are likely going to pick up their 4th win of the year. One of these two were going to get their 4th win of the year, but the Bears with the superior execution, and the face-off's a big reason for that, because it just allows you to work the clock. And as we saw in the first quarter, put up a big run. Bears tripping up was Colton Butts. Nothing called, we play on. But that 5-0 run can prove demoralizing when you have to start from that big a deficit. If you're wondering what the mercy rule is in boys lacrosse, it's 12. I don't know if we'll get there. But a valiant, radiant, bountiful performance from the Bears. They shut out Woodbury 5-0 after the first, and usually you don't point to an early run as the turning point, but in this case it was. Woodbury just couldn't string enough together. They had back-to-back scores to open the third, but White Bear Lake answered. And again, key performances from the key leaders on White Bear Lake. That is how you build up a winning effort. But Sam Sanchez isn't going to back away quietly. And ISO play ends with his 2nd goal of the game.
Scoring for the Royals, first of the quarter and second of the game, number 1, Sam Sanchez.
Again, Sanchez coming in, averaging just under 3 a game. White Bear Lake wins another face-off. They march downfield and will back off again. Being in this situation, you're not going to be as gutsy as you might have been in the earlier periods. And the way this game is going, well, most of you, if you are watching one screen, will have time to watch the third period uninterrupted between the Wildland Stars, because White Bear Lake has this game secured. That shot from the left wing area bounced off the post. Woodbury picks it up, and they'll fling downfield with the empty net. And that will allow Woodbury to maintain possession. Or is it? One official said Woodbury ball, but a second official said it was White Bear Lake, that it wasn't ruled a shot apparently. But Woodbury gets it back. So no harm, no foul, I suppose. Woodbury has been trying for those long ball passes or shot attempts, as we have a delayed penalty coming up against White Bear Lake. Vikstrom has left the net a couple of times. Here's the shot. Sanchez to Bregel. Bregel with his first goal of the game, and Sanchez, his second assist, gives him 4 points. And we'll see
first of the game, number 2.
who the penalty's on. Cross-checking, 1 minute. Penalties are not waived off in lacrosse if the other team scores. So Mac Wicklund will have to serve a 1 minute penalty. The problem for Woodbury is there's only 5:37 left in the game, and you're still trailing by 6. And White Bear Lake wins another face-off, this time through a violation on Owen Founds. Adrian Eicher was trapped in the corner, and since White Bear Lake had a timeout left, this goes back to what I was discussing earlier. Some coaches will use a timeout to maintain a possession. And while it's more notable in basketball, where you have 5 timeouts up until the state tournament games that are televised, in lacrosse, you get 2 timeouts a half. Well, that's 4 possessions, potentially, and those 4 possessions could add up. So let's take a look at some of our key performers for White Bear Lake, a couple of them with hat tricks, including Gavin Hewitt, his 3rd of the season. He and Wyatt Raleigh, they were the 2 leaders in scoring for the Bears. And they have fulfilled that role today. But all around, White Bear Lake getting support from everybody. Colton Butts with a pair of goals. Liam Malloy, unofficially 2 goals, 4 assists. Eli Lalonde, he has a pair of goals in his column. I don't think you could ask for much more, barring a few more goals, perhaps. Malloy has the ball, and again, that's one reason coaches will use the timeout. You can get stick handlers who are more adept at offense. Foul called on Woodbury, so no takeaway for the Royals. Woodbury and the other South Washington County schools on track to complete renovations to their buildings. Woodbury getting some upgrades after 50 years as a high school. Proctor Cottage Grove and Eastridge, the others. Here comes Sanchez. He flips it across. Delayed. Look. White Bear Lake closest to the ball. And the Bears at full strength. .408 to go. White Bear Lake will go to 4-2. Woodbury will fall to 3-4. For the Bears, the big question is, can they find a way to contend with the higher-ups in their section? because one way or another, they'll have to face Stillwater and / or Eastridge again. Currently, they are in the 4 seed, and whether you're 3 or 4, I presume Stillwater and Eastridge, or excuse me, Eastridge is in section 3. I have to remind myself of that. So White Bear Lake really has to worry about Stillwater, but Centennial, a contender out in section 4. What will they have to say? Delayed one-timer. Goes offline. Whippler to Weston Raleigh. But it will stay with the Bears. The wraparound finds its way to the net. Wyatt Raleigh with his 4th goal of the game.
Scoring for the Bears. First of the quarter, 4th of the game. Number 3, White Raleigh.
Wyatt Raleigh already past 20 goals for the season, and you have to think that number will only go up from here. More or less stat padding time, as it's now 13-6. That's what it should be with 3 minutes to go. And I've run out of ways to describe this, but this is what you want. As Woodbury will take a timeout, 2:41 left in the 4th.
Timeout, Woodbury.
And taking a look at some upcoming broadcasts for SCC, I am not scheduled to appear in them, at least to my knowledge, but we've got plenty of announcers in our stable, and you'll be hearing a lot of them as we head to the month of May. It's a short season, the spring season, really a couple of months of regular season play, and then we'll keep you posted on section coverage. As you may have seen in the past, we have typically posted our games through NSPN once we get into spring postseason play. So a lot to look forward to on the airwaves of SCC. And we hope you'll stick around as we enter the final month of the regular season for the school year. And then we'll have a few months to reset, and then we'll do it all over again late August, September, and the cycle never ends. We just get older. For Wyatt Raleigh, depending on how the season goes, there's still about half the games, if not more. So we'll have to see how everything shakes out. But Wyatt could be in position to make a run at the leaderboard as Woodbury turns it over on an errant pass. Wyatt Macy entering tonight, the current state leader in goals with 27. He hails from Owatonna. Woodbury looking for the transition play. Sanchez found his man on the back door, but Matthew Keller couldn't quite connect. White Bear Lake in a little bit of trouble. Again, they do have to get it across midfield within a certain time, which they do. Now they have to get into the attack zone, which is that 30-yard line. And once they do, then you can work the ball all the way from midfield. It's marked by that silver border along the 30. You hear this saying more often in basketball. It's a game of runs, but it's just as poignant in lacrosse. A 5-0 run in the first quarter was all White Bear Lake needed to put their stamp on a wire-to-wire win. They shut out Woodbury in the first. 5-0 was the score after one, and the Royals just didn't get enough offensive production until the second half. It was 8-1 at halftime. White Bear Lake's defense on point, shutting down just about every lane, every gap, and Woodbury a little slow to respond for this game. But as we said at the start, working with a younger team, they lost a lot of offense to graduation, and you're seeing the future building blocks in action. It may not result in a win today. They do have a few wins this season, but it might be one of those years where they set themselves up for a bigger run down the road. They do have a few seniors in their ranks, including Sanchez. And for those who have college aspirations in their sights, they'll keep scrapping. Penalty was on Woodbury against Briggle, but it's inconsequential here. White Bear Lake used a sizzling start to cook up a runaway win. They'll cook up one more goal just as time expires. Or did they? No, I think it was waved off. Must have been the outside of the net. In any event, that's it. That's all. White Bear Lake wins 13-6.
Sportsmanship and support as the Bears took on the Woodbury Royals tonight under the lights. Your presence makes a difference. This is what White Bear
Wyatt Raleigh, 4 goals. Gavin Hewitt with 3. Both picking up their third hat trick of the season.
On Thursday, April 30th, and take on the Rangers. We'll see you back here.
And White Bear Lake has a chance to put together a win streak as we look at the highlights with Forest Lake coming up next. The Rangers have struggled a little bit. White Bear Lake led 8-1 at the half. And that was all they needed. As you see in the highlights, a lot of those goals came from the persistence and multitude of face-off wins. White Bear Lake controlled that facet all game long, and when you're winning the face-offs, there's just not much you can do as an opposing side. In this game, face-offs, they're not quite kings, but they're close. You win the face-offs, you can do a whole lot of good. And just about everybody for White Bear Lake, the big names, Lalonde, Hewitt, Wyatt Raleigh, answered the call. On several occasions, Malloy as well. 2 goals and 4 assists unofficially. So that will do it for this edition of SEC Sports, where the White Bear Lake Bears knock off the Woodbury Royals 13-6 in high school boys lacrosse. So for everyone on the SEC crew, this is Mike Beaton thanking you for watching live coverage of high school boys lacrosse. We'll see you next time.